All right. So, Disney. This is a article here, and a lot of other news outlets are doing articles about it. The big corporation Disney won't have a $1 billion movie that is this year in 2023. This article by IGN says Disney won't have a $1 billion movie in 2023, ending a long trend. The last time this happened, excluding pandemic years, was 2014. After Wish's underwhelming opening this past weekend, did you see Wish?
I have not. No, like
Okay.
I have not actually been in the theater since I saw Dead Reckoning. So it's been a
Okay.
minute.
Yeah, we're gonna get into some of the movies that Disney has released this year in our discussion about it. But this year is like they released a lot of mid this year. We're gonna get into it. But says yeah, underwhelming opening this past weekend. The spotlight is on Disney once again. And the rough year this once incredibly reliable brand has had to specify, as Variety pointed out in recent analysis of this troubling box office streak. Disney looks primed to end 2023 without a single movie crossing the 1 billion mark. To be clear, that 1 billion mark is not an easy one to cross. Only two movies, Barbie and the Super Mario Brothers movie, have done it. Yet this year. But that used to nearly be given for Disney. That used to be a nearly given for Disney there. We're not going to count 2020 or in 2021, which were widely abnormal years for box office amid COVID-19 lockdowns. But going back to the pre-pandemic times, Disney had a whopping $7 billion hits in 2019. Captain Marvel, Avengers Endgame, the live action Aladdin, and Lion King, Toy Story 4, Frozen 2, and Star Wars: The Rise of Skywalker, which didn't cross 1 billion until early 2020, but was released at the end of 2019. All achieved the milestone, leading Disney to break its own record worldwide annual gross. Um, and then, so I'm going to pull up some of the Disney movies that have come out this year. But Hunter, why do you think that there hasn't been a $1 billion movie for Disney in 2023?
Dude, the strike, man. Like, I don't know why this is so hard for people. Like, okay, let me just get this out of the way. It's so dumb we're having this conversation. Like, none of us have stock in Disney. Like, why the fuck do we care? Oh no, Disney doesn't have $1 billion film for the first time in like a decade. Like, boo fuckity who. Like, to quote Dr. Evil, boo frickety who. Like, it doesn't matter. It means nothing at the end of the day. I was talking to my partner about it. We're at this point where the machine drives itself. Like, even like this being a quote down year unquote for Disney, Guardians made like what, like
800 and
863
let me pull up
million on that.
which, by the way, Guardians Volume 3 was the most successful movie they had this year, by
Yeah,
the way.
so I mean, like, Guardians did super well.
That made 845.6 million.
Okay, I was close. Fucking, Wakanda Forever did like 800 plus million.
Yeah, that
No,
did 856 million, I want to say. Let me see
yeah,
really quick here. That made 859.2
there
million.
you go. Even fucking Love and Thunder did, I think, like 770
I
ish,
think that
something like that.
did 600 something. It did. Oh yeah, you're right. It did 760.9 million.
There you go. So it's like, we're acting like Disney's not profitable. Super Mario was always gonna do super well. Like, when people were like, it made $1 billion, I'm so shocked. I was like, it's fucking Mario. I'm not surprised that it made $1 billion. Same thing with Barbie. Like, when Barbie made $1 billion, I was more surprised though. Oppenheimer made $1 billion than I was that Barbie made $1 billion. I was like,
No, Oppenheimer didn't. It made close to $1 billion, but it didn't make.
oh, it's close to $1 billion. Okay.
It
But I was
made
like,
952.4 million.
okay. I mean, close enough. Um, but yeah, like, the people who are like, how do I put this? At the end of the day, it doesn't really matter that Disney doesn't have a film that crosses $1 billion, because Disney makes money. Like, Disney will cover their shit just on advertising alone, because Disney are fucking whores when it comes to advertising and merchandise. So they'll be fine just off that alone. But as I said when the Marvels was coming out, there was a fucking writer's strike going on, a rightfully so writer's strike and actor strike, might I add, that shut down advertising and everything. Do I think that the Marvels would have made $1 billion? Probably not. But I mean, do I think it could have made, 600, 700 mil? Absolutely. But if you can't advertise a movie, you can't really, it's a lot harder to make profit on it. And honestly, I hope that's the lesson. It won't be, but I hope that's the lesson that's taken away from all this is like, hey, studios, you need your actors, you need your actresses, you need your writers, you need your grips, you need all these people who aren't you to make your films fucking successful. And maybe you should stop sleeping on these people and actually make sure that when these when this comes up again in 3 years, which it obviously fucking will, that you actually don't devalue them and actually go ahead and pay them what they're fucking worth. Bob Iger and David Zaslav, like it's like they're in a race on who can be a bigger asshole, and there's both somehow still winning. Like they're both winning somehow because Zaslav comes out and goes, it took courage to go ahead and shelve that Batgirl movie. It's like, oh, did it? And Iger coming out with the shit of.
Let me get the quote right here. I think I know what you're going to bring up here. So this is an article. This is from CNBC here. So it says Disney Chief Executive Officer Bob Iger said Wednesday he will no longer tolerate his company's partners and creative team prioritizing messaging over storytelling. Creators lost sight of what their number one objective needed to be. Iger said at the Deal Book Summit in New York on Wednesday, we have to entertain first. It's not about messages. He said that.
So I'm going to be real. That concerns me. That concerns me a lot because okay. So I'll take the Marvels, for example. The big lesson that's coming out that some people are saying is, oh, look, a woman of color can't direct 3 other women to a successful movie. That shouldn't be the message at all. The message of that should be you had no advertising. I had a lot of fun with the Marvels. I would give it personally probably a low, like a low tune in. I had a lot of fun with it. Is it perfect? No. The villain is very much a placeholder, but I had fun with the flick. But people acting like, oh my god, it's because it had women in it that the film didn't do well. It's like that's why it just makes me roll my eyes. It's like, come on, y'all. That's not the fucking reason why this didn't do well. It is frustrating. Oh, good. I was just gonna say it is frustrating though that this had because a lot of people and I'm just gonna say it, a lot of cis straight men had Wakanda Forever pegged for what the Marvels was gonna be. I think a lot of people thought after Chadwick died, it was like, oh man, there's no more Black Panther. Oh, Black Panther's done. Go woke, go broke, and then it makes almost 900 million. It's like, oh well. Fuck you. I think a lot of people were expecting Wakanda Forever to underperform. So when it didn't underperform, they just kept moving the goalpost until they felt like their point was proven, which it was, unfortunately, with the Marvels. That's the message that I really take out of this. Now, with that said, Disney's been very about shit. I like Lightyear. I'm in no way saying it's a great fucking movie, but I think it's a fun movie. But that's kind of been Disney's thing. They've been very much in a I would say outside the MCU especially, they've been very comfortable with a lot of the stuff that they've been releasing. Lightyear, Elemental,
which came out this year, and it did come out this year. Yeah,
that was this year. Yeah, that was this year.
Which actually turned out to be pretty good because it kept just making money over time, and it made close to 500 million.
Shockingly so, yeah. But let's be real, man. There's no goddamn reason why Indiana Jones movie should have been what was the budget? I think 220 on that.
Yeah, it was a high budget. That's one. So that gets into a list of reasons here that I think that Disney is kind of failing. So. Let me first discuss a lot of movies. You talk about a lot of men that they've had over time. So this year alone, and this is excluding movies they just released on their streaming platform. This is just movies that they just released to the theater. So you had beginning of the year, February 17th, Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania. Didn't really like that all that much. And that also really drastically underperformed. I think it was the lowest grossing out of all the Ant-Man movies.
Yeah, 450 mil, something like that.
Yeah, I think it was I think you are right about that. Let's see here. Yeah, it was 476 million. Then after that, you had Chevalier, which was a co-production they did. so that doesn't they did there.
I
Um,
like that movie a lot too, but I digress.
then you had Guardians 3, which came out in May. Um, that did really well, as we mentioned before, crossed 800 million. Did about in line with the other Guardians movies, about the second one.
Yeah,
And you got to think of how impressive that was, considering the fact that it was between Little Mermaid and Fast X and Across the Spider Verse and Indiana
yep.
Jones and The Flash, and that one really stood above all those other ones and made money. So you have to also give credit for that movie for doing there. Then The Little Mermaid was after that, May 26th. This also kind of underperformed. I think maybe in a
What did
less
that
crowd.
make? Yeah,
So
what did
little.
that make?
Let's see. I think it made. Hold on. I think 400 plus million here. So it made. Oh no, 500 plus. So 569.6 million. Uh,
That's good. That's pretty good though for a live action remake of like let's be real. Like so we have to point this out. Like you have a woman of color starring in that. Like I was shocked that made it to 500 million because
I,
that's all I fucking heard. It was like mermaids can't be black. Mermaids are real. Like I was just like, and I think a lot of these projects unfortunately do have that kind of uphill battle of I don't want to see I don't want to see a person of color starring in my shit. Um
I
I
oh,
good.
I think this would have made more money if it wasn't released in this crowded year. Like if they
I
released it somewhere else, because like we talked about beforehand, me and Nick about these Disney remakes, which I mostly hate these Disney remakes, but
Oh yeah, no, it's horrish as hell. Like, let's not get it twisted. Like,
but the trend with a lot of them was like the movies from like the 80s, 90s territory. Like Lion King made a billion, Aladdin made a billion.
yep, yep.
A lot of them do from that era do tend to do really well. I think this would this made have also made a billion if you released it some other time. I don't know, maybe, but it would have had a better shot if you didn't
Ye-
release it. I think in a crowd this crowd.
I think if you put this out like late August, maybe first week of September, I think you have an easier path to getting to around 650, 700. Because there are a couple songs in here like her version of part of your world I thought was fucking incredible. I was like, holy shit, this girl can sing. And Melissa McCarthy, who I am not normally a fan of because she typically like I'm chunky and I fall over things, walk away, that's like her shtick a lot of the time. And there was less of that. I will say Sebastian scared the shit out of me. I hated the way Sebastian looked. I was like, oh, I don't like this at all. And fucking Aquafina, man, when her and what's the Davis? I can't think of the brother's name, but when they were like rapping
Jeremy
together in
Davis.
thank you. When they were like rapping together in Ariel's room, I was like, okay, please stop that right now. I was like, I don't like that shit at all. So I mean, yeah, like definitely not a movie that you need to rewatch. But I was never like angry at Little Mermaid. I was just more like, this is more of like this is in that Mulan, that Mulan realm where I'm like, this doesn't need to exist outside of just corporate greed. But
Which these live action remakes, to divert a little bit from the list of movies here, that's on my list of why I think one of the reasons why the brand is kind of going, because I think they just going back to what we've already seen, and I kind of partly blame a little bit the consumer here for this because it's like y'all
oh
went
yeah,
to see The Lion King and that made $1 billion when it's the same fucking movie as Lion King from 1995. It's the
but
same movie, people. Like I
but
don't know
that's
how this made a billion.
that's dude, nostalgia, man. Like I don't know why people act like this is such a hard equation to solve, man. Like nostalgia is a powerful fucking like, dude. God, I'm gonna say the name of the movie. Top Gun Maverick made a bunch of money because people are like, oh, this reminds me of the original Top Gun, which is not good, by the way. But also, it's like, oh, this takes me back to a time when men were men and black people's vote wasn't a full vote. Like it's like there's a lot of that tied into it, and there's a lot of nostalgia tied into a lot of these remakes, which is what gets them to a floor of like 350 400 million. So so like there's a lot of that attached to this. I like the Lion King I like the Lion King a lot because it gives me like Planet Earth vibes. Like I love
Like you're
watching like
watching
blue.
the
Oh, dude,
Disney
I
Plus,
have like
like Animal Planet or something?
yeah, dude, I have like 18 of those fucking documentaries like in 4K, man. Like I got like Blue Planet and like Frozen Planet and like Planet Earth 1 and 2. Like that was a big thing for me and one of my cats during lockdowns. Like, let's get high, let's put on the space flight, and let's watch one of these fucking nature I love watching those fucking things. I think they're so much fun. And that's basically what Lion King is. It's a live action quote documentary unquote. um but I think people have a lot of changing the medium. You'll get a lot of people to get into theaters just based on curiosity. So I think that's a big component as far as why a lot of these do tend to do well. Now with that said, I think there's just certain live action remakes you shouldn't be touching. Like when they were like, "We're doing Dumbo," I was like, "Oh, we're gonna see, Jim Crow in live action." Like, like you
Well,
don't need.
some things I could like if you go way back in the past, like you know what I mean, like the 40s, the 30s, and try to do that. Like I don't have really a problem with that because there's no real close, I don't think, connection there to those movies as
Yeah.
opposed to Little Mermaid and Lion King and Mulan and all that stuff. Like that's fairly recent. And then
Oh yeah, absolutely.
it's got them thinking like, oh well, let's do Moana. Let's do this. Like Moana's not even 10 years old yet. And you're gonna
Oh
do a
yeah.
live action remake of Moana? Like that doesn't
Yeah,
make
and no shame about it. Like, I mean, like if they were like, hey, we're gonna do a live action of like Black Cauldron or a Sword in the Stone, I'd be like, oh, okay, like that could actually be interesting. But yeah, to your point, they're not doing that. They're just going like, oh, when did this come out? Like,
uh,
yeah, I mean, dude, Tim Burton loves Johnny Depp. I would not be surprised. It's like, all right, you're Tonto, but a crow. But yeah, this whole and look again, we're talking about $1 billion corporate, like a multi-billion-dollar corporate. What the fuck are we talking about? A multi-billion-dollar corporation having one bad year out of 10. Like it's a dumb conversation that we're fucking having anyway, because come 2024, this won't fucking matter. Like people will hear about Deadpool 3 and they'll be like, oh shit, how does that set up? Oh, the TVA is in here. Oh, well, I gotta see. Like it won't fucking matter. Like come 2024, but the other thing that we do have to point out, shit is more expensive than it's been in like a decade. So it's like, so everyone going like, why aren't people going to the theaters? It's like, yeah, because people are fucking penny and diming right now. Like we don't like we don't have extra money to just go ahead and fucking throw around. And I've said it on the show, since lockdown. I personally haven't been back to the theater since Dead Reckoning Part 1 because audiences are fucking rude since like dude, the amount of people, like I've had so many people in front of me snap at people to get them popcorn and shit, like doing that shit. Like I had to check somebody on that shit. And I got in a whole fucking argument with this lady because she was snapping at someone to get her popcorn. It's like, don't be a fucking bitch. She's doing what she can. Like cut her some like people have just been rude post lock. Like the theater experience is not nearly as fun as it was anymore. People are way ruder. It's not as fun. It's harder to justify going to a theater. So, people going like, I'm just gonna wait for, this to come out on Blu-ray. Like,
which is another thing. They said people might just wait for, come on Blu-ray or the streaming service. They have Disney
yeah,
Plus.
absolutely.
Some of these movies, it's like, maybe I can see it in theaters, or maybe I'll just wait. And a lot of times, the release date for the coming on streaming service is pretty soon, so it's like you're not really missing that much of time. You know what I mean? And
Exactly, and the windows are so much shorter. I mean, some shit's hitting. Paramount's been insane with getting shit on Paramount Plus. Within like 90 days. It's like you don't need to go to theater if especially if you're content creators like us and you have so much shit you can review. Before you know it, that thing you wanted to review, it's on streaming. You're like, oh, cool. I waited a little bit. It's here now. So, but then the other thing we do have to bring up is, and god damn, we have to bring this up. Studios, you're being real dicks when it comes to what you're putting on your streaming services. And when I say that is, I mean, something like Kid Cudi, for example. Like, I love Kid Cudi. I think he's a really great actor, like an underrated actor, and he's a brilliant musician. He was in this movie Crater that was on Disney Plus that I really fucking enjoyed. I haven't uploaded my review yet because you can't stream Crater anymore on Disney Plus because they fucking pulled it. It's like, if I'm paying, you know, $12, whatever the fuck it is, for your streaming service, you shouldn't be pulling shit, let alone shit you fucking produce. Like, why the fuck are you doing that, you greedy fucking studios? So some people just are over it off that alone. Like, I know a lot of people who have been like, yeah, I canceled my Disney Plus because, you know, I finished up Loki, or I finished up Ahsoka, or, you know, like, yeah, I don't have those shows currently, you know, in my pipeline, so I don't need to have the, you know, I don't need to have the streaming service. And this is another reason, people, to go on a thing here. Buy physical media. I know you don't want, I know some of you don't want to do it, but this is why you buy physical media. Because if people, you know, if people pull your shit like fucking HBO Max did, and they pulled Space Ghost, I have the first 3 seasons of Space Ghost. I can go through and actually watch that DVD and not have to worry about being pulled. But that's one reason why you should actually invest in physical media, because these fucking studios have no shame, and they'll pull shit and go, what do you want us to do? So invest in physical media, people. Like,
so to finish out some of the movies that they had this year, so they also had The Boogeyman, which I didn't see.
I didn't see that.
That was a co-production that was released by 20th Century Studios with 21 Labs Entertainment here. Then in June 16th, they had Elemental, which we just talked about, kind of made money over time. Then we talked about this one. This was a big bomb, June 30th, with Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny.
That's a movie. I'm gonna be. I don't know if it'll make my worst of, but I kind of like it less and less the more I see parts of it.
The budget on this was between 295 million and 300 million reportedly.
Oh, okay, so that's ridiculous. There's no goddamn reason Indiana Jones film should be that expensive. Like 125 tops, honestly.
And the final box office was 384 million. So this gets into one of the other kind of things that you mentioned beforehand, these huge ass budgets. Why do you have, and I get that some of Indiana Jones, I mean, it had a lot of COVID delays with it, and then Harrison Ford got hurt on set, so they had to delay production, and that also added to the cost. But damn, almost 300 million for Indiana Jones movie, for all that mid, you spent $300 for that? 300 million? It's like, nah,
you know, no reason.
At most, it should have been maybe 60, 80 million at most.
I think with delays, you can say 100 million. Like, but you shouldn't be over one. Like over nice. Over 125. Like, when I heard that budget, I was like, holy. Now, that's going to be another thing. I think next year, you know, like, as we continue to learn to live with COVID, and people, get your boosters, by the way, don't be dicks. But as we kind of learn to continue to move forward, I do think that there will be a bit, you know, shaving down as far as certain budgets and stuff. But at the same time, like people talking about, like, oh man, I'm so shocked that Blade's budget's gonna only be, you know, like $100 million. You shouldn't need a Blade movie to be a $250 million budget. Like, there's no like, Blade is a fucking street level hero. You can do a Blade movie for $100 million. Like, not everything needs to be, to your point, Josh, 250, 300 million. Like, I think Dead Reckoning was like $250 million budget, if memory serves. Like,
hold on. Let me look at the budget here for Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning here, because I think that is also another situation too of like COVID delays, things like that. With that, so the budget on that was 291 million for Dead Reckoning.
Whoo! See, that's what I'm talking about, man. You don't need shit to be that expensive. And again, like, we get that there are COVID delays, but goddamn, like 300 million for, like, that's wild, yo. Like, you can't, like, that's unsustainable. Like,
and then for like they're spending. You know how much they spent on Haunted Mansion was another movie they released. You know what the budget?
Let me guess. Let me guess. I'm gonna go 175.
Close. It was 150. 150.
Oh, see, there you go.
150 million for a Haunted Mansion movie. That's like, but this
Yeah,
you didn't need 150 million dollars, man. And this was also
yeah,
another movie that was also kind of. It was just kind of when I saw it, it was just kind of meh. It was like, oh, all right. I mean, it's decent, I guess. I like some of the actors in it, but it was like, it wasn't anything special. It's like, again, if you have lower budgets, it can make for a bigger return. So you wouldn't go like you wouldn't have to expect all this. And
yeah.
$150 million. And I think, let's see, what was the final box office for Haunted Mansion here? And this was based on a Disney ride. I know it's a popular Disney ride, and obviously Pirates of
It
the
is.
Caribbean made a lot of money, but it for the final box office was 117.5 million for this. So that way underperformed for this. It didn't even make more than its budget there.
Damn.
So let's see. So after Haunted Mansion here, you also have Haunting in Venice, which they did studios, which I like. That's not a big blockbuster movie, but I like that. I thought that
Nah.
was the best of the Hercule Poirot movies. They also did a movie, The Creator. Did you see The Creator? That was 20th century.
I have not seen The Creator yet. I actually do want to see that though.
Now, The Creator, even though this movie, I felt it was kind of just decent. It wasn't really anything really special there, story wise. The look of the movie is gorgeous. Guess the budget on what this movie was.
I'll go 210.
No, way off.
Really?
It is $80 million. This was an $80
Really?
million budget movie. Garth Ennis,
That's
and
okay.
and it looks really good. I mean,
It
and
does.
this is in a sci-fi. It's in the future. A lot of robots. You see a lot of here. The plot is generic, really, but I think that it's like, hey, this shows. I wanted this to be really successful because it shows like, hey, even with a small, but you can do kind of big concept sci-fi movies like this, even with kind of a reasonable budget.
I mean, my go-to is always District 9, which is I think it's like a $30 million budget. Like it's like you can make something look great. You don't always have to drop, multiple $100 million dollars to make something look good.
And then the final box office with The Creator was 104 million.
Damn.
Yeah, and then so we get into November 10th, which they did The Marvels, which right now I think is at the box office currently. So the budget on this was budget was 274.8 million.
Goddamn.
And the box office currently is 189.1 million.
Whew,
and I made a bet with Nathan saying it's gonna make more than Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania. I don't know if that bet's gonna.
Yeah, man. I think you're gonna lose that one, man. That's damn.
Yeah. So that's pretty much it. And then they have Wish, which Wish, the budget on this was reportedly 175 to 200 million.
Really? Why? Like it looked. God damn.
And apparently, yeah. And the box office right now for it. What do you think the box office for it is right now?
Man. Oh, let me think. How long's it been out? Can you tell? Can you give me that?
Well, it's been out since November 22nd.
Okay,
a couple weeks.
I'm gonna. Ooh, are you talking worldwide or domestic? I need qualifiers here. Like
just worldwide altogether.
All right, worldwide. I'm gonna go 70 mil.
70 mil. Let me see. Let me make sure I got the right number here. No, you're off. Way off.
Lower. That's not good. 45.
Close. It's 53 million. 53.
Ooh, man, that's shit. Well, yeah. You better wish for a better return because goddamn, that's not. But again, like, dude, like again, this conversation, and I have to tie it back to my thesis. Like, it's much ado about kind of something, and I say that in the sense of. And I've been saying this since lockdown happened. We have to start looking at the box office differently. Like, not everything is going to be $1 billion movie. Like, I think what studios are going to realize is $1 billion is an actual accomplishment again. Because, back in like the 2000, like early 2000s, like a movie crossing $1 billion was a big fucking deal. Like, it was like, holy shit, this made $1 billion. And we've gotten to this point where it's like, oh, yeah, $1 billion, like kind of like whatever. It's like, no, like a bill crossing a bill is a big deal still. And I think studios are gonna definitely go ahead and kind of be reflecting, go like, okay, like can this get to $1 billion? Like that kind of needs to be what we're shooting for as our ceiling. Um, it is really funny that Bob Iger has the fucking nerve to go, we need to stop making so many sequels, and then announces, Frozen 3 and Frozen 4. It's like, okay, dude, like you
Toy
give me a
Story 8,
fucking
like,
yeah, dude, and we're getting a fifth Toy Story. Like, look, I'm as big of a Toy Story fan as anyone, and I can't believe that the fourth film works as well as it does. That is in large part to Key and Peele, because their bits in there are fucking wonderful. But I went, okay, Toy Story 4, you made a movie past the third one, and it still somehow worked. That's amazing. Like, thank you for 4 movies. Like, congrats. And then they're like, oh, we're doing a 5th one. It's like, God damn, it's like, stop doing Toy Story movies. Like, you don't need to do more of these. But yeah, like this whole conversation, it is just kind of a shrug, whatever, because at the end of the day, as I said earlier, the car drives itself at this point. Like, if Disney doesn't make this at the box office, they'll make it through their overpriced tickets to their park. They'll make it in, fucking Olaf plushies. They'll make it in fucking, lights. Like that's the thing. Disney just owns so much. Like, you can only hurt the machine so much at this point. Like, there's so many people that I know who play fantasy football. Like, who owns ESPN? That would be Disney. Like, it doesn't matter at this point. Like, will some stuff get tweaked? Sure, but I think this is a more of hopefully a wake-up call to the industry. Like, hey, you can't just coast on IPs. And I've said this about DC, where DC is going to take some L's with this whole new gun regime. Like, there's a world where their Superman movie doesn't make a profit. I hope that doesn't happen, but there is definitely a world where, that Superman film just doesn't do gangbusters. Like, it might be like Batman Begins, where it's this great fucking movie that people are gun shy about seeing because they've been burned so many times, and they just, don't support it till it hits, Blu-ray. Like, there is a world where that happens. But as far as Disney, though, like, it'll be interesting to see what they have coming out in 2024. I know they just promote.
So list of movies 2024 we got coming out. So I'll do like some of these bigger releases. I won't do all of them, but I'll do some of the bigger.
Okay.
Ones. More of the bigger stuff. So like their biggest movie that's coming out beginning of 2024 is May 24th, and they're gonna do Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes. That's what they're gonna do.
I'm hyped for that. I won't lie, I'm hyped for that.
How much is that gonna make? How much do the other Planet of the Apes movies make?
They weirdly do pretty well, if memory.
War of the Planet of the Apes was the last one, and that made $490 million. So
I mean, almost 500 mil on a $150 budget. That's actually pretty good. Like,
then also after that, they have June 14th. They have Inside Out 2. That might do really well because people really love Inside Out. And then the girl, her next emotion is anxiety. Hell, everybody got anxiety now. So that
you ain't lying. Oh, by the way, Dawn of the Planet of the Apes, 708.8 million. So I mean, like the Apes films tend to do well.
Yeah. So the one that I think has a chance early on to maybe cross the billion is, like you said, Deadpool 3.
Deadpool, yeah.
That's probably the one there.
I mean, even Deadpool 2, which I really dig, but admit is not as good as the first one. Even that, I think that almost did. That did really well, didn't it? I think.
That made 785.8.
Yeah, for Radar, that's absurd for a Radar movie to do that well. Like, yeah.
Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Oh, I was gonna say. So, I mean, if they keep it rated R, which they say they're doing, like we'll see when trailers have to come out, but they said that's gonna stay rated R. I mean, the thing is, man, Hugh Jackman being in that movie as Wolverine again, that'll get you to 500 million. Like
Yeah.
that alone will get you there.
The
So that'll
cameos, all that shit.
yeah, man. Like and if my theory about the TVA being involved, like, dude, that could be, I think at worst, and I'll plant my flag right now. That's 650 million low end.
Yeah.
So
So about Bob Iger, I'm gonna wrap this up pretty soon. But Bob Iger, so about his thing, about his statement here about it's too focused on messages. I think if you're looking at like critiquing the Marvels and saying like you were too focused on the message in here, I think the problem with the Marvels is there is no message. There is nothing going on here. Like, what's the message of the Marvels? It's just what women, women be womening. Like, what the hell is the message here? What you doing? Like, okay, you got a female cast, you got a female director, you got a female villain, but what are you really doing with it? And that's, I think, one of the biggest problems with this movie is you really not doing anything with it. One of your best movies this year, Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3, that had a message to it. That had something going on to it. That had, emotion, themes, this whole thing, animal cruelty, cruelty against even just any living thing. That had a
yeah,
message to it. And that was one of your most successful movies this year. And that also has the benefit of like, yes, it's an MCU movie. Yes, it's James Gunn closing out the trilogy of the Guardians movies that
that too.
kicked it all out. Yes, it has all that going for it as well, but also it also does have a message to it. Another movie that was brought up in the IGN article that was one of the most successful movies of the year. It's one of the most successful movies in the entire Warner Brothers history. Barbie. Barbie had a message to it. Barbie was all about it. Made no mistake of pushing it in your face of how much a message of it was. And do you know a movie that followed it up that was just as political as Barbie? Fucking Oppenheimer, which made $950 million. That is just as political as this movie. So
Yeah, like, so the thing about Iger, and I have my issues with Barbie. I think Barbie gets, even for me who understands that subtlety is just not a thing in our world anymore, because I just don't think people recognize it. I do think I think Barbie gets a little too ham-fisted for its own good at points, especially at the end, where I think it does kind of just skirt around the message that it kind of sets up, but that's a whole other conversation. Um, a Barbie movie should not function as well as this one does. So it's kind of a miracle just on that alone before you even start to get into the nuts and bolts of it. The thing about, again, I will keep going back to this on the Marvels. It had no advertising whatsoever. Like, Miss Marvel is one of the more successful Disney Plus shows that they've launched. Like, it did really well with audiences and streaming numbers, and it was successful. Captain Marvel, despite what some people might think of it, it made $1 billion. It made over $1 billion. So I don't think that this is some doom and gloom thing, but I do think that there is definitely a narrative to an extent of, oh, you guys were, and this narrative is wrong, by the way, but oh, you Hollywood elites are striking for absolutely no reason to keep us from having content. It's like, no, it's because not everyone is a Brie Larson. Not everyone is a Robert Downey Jr. You have people who do indie films who are making, not nearly what those people are making, and they deserve a fair wage too. Striking helps people. Like, look at the UPS drivers. Like, striking does help. Like, yeah, exactly. But I do think that, and that is what concerns me, is that there are people going, oh, it's the whole, the women wanting to, the women want to take away our rights, which is such an absurd goddamn sentence. But I think the Marvels will do well on Disney Plus. Like, a lot of their shit does well on Disney Plus once it, eventually hits. But I just,
Rating from Trish said the Marvels also had the baggage of other Marvel things being disappointing to carry in, just like Superman. If Superman doesn't do well because of previous bad DC projects,
I mean, to an extent, yeah, but that's like Quantum Mania is like the one MCU thing that financially hasn't done well recently. Like, even, I admit I like Love and Thunder more than most, but that almost made 800 million. Like, fucking Love and Thunder almost made 800 million. Like, these films are still profitable, whether people think that the MCU has lost its way or whatever narrative you want to put on it. But if you can't advertise a movie, it's hard to get people to go see it. So with the strike now being over, and I don't even want to say that I want Hollywood to get back to normal, because it shouldn't get back to normal. This should be a very hard lesson that Hollywood learns and goes, oh wow, we need to actually change the way we do shit. Will it be? Probably not. But that'll be a whole other conversation we have in 6 months. But really, when you think about the fact that Barbie, $1 billion movie, keep in mind Oppenheimer's not Warner Brothers. That's who was Oppenheimer? I know it's not Warner Brothers because Nolan left them. I can't remember what studio that is. It's not MGM.
Let me see real quick. Universal Pictures.
Thank you. Yeah. So it's not. So every studio has been hit by shit. It just happens to be because Disney is Disney. So therefore, this is where it starts. But
Warner Brothers, because none of their superhero movies did well.
Oh yeah, dude! Like
Black Adam, Blue Beetle.
The Flash.
Flash, that was a huge disaster. Yeah.
But see, that is where my eye rolls come in, because that's not the narrative that's being spun. It's like, oh, Disney fucked up. It's like, no, the whole industry is kind of fucked right now. So, what I would tell people, and I'll just say this as my last kind of point, is if you want to go see something and you're comfortable, because I have friends of mine who are not comfortable going out in the a packed theater right now, especially with the flu and shit. It's like, if you're not comfortable seeing something at theater, don't go see something at theater. Wait for it to, because at the end of the day, you should be comfortable watching whatever you're gonna watch. So if you're more comfortable watching at home, watch at home. If you're down to go out to a theater and have your popcorn, sit there, go out and see it in the theater. Like, you should be able to consume your media however you're comfortable doing so. But 2024, I think you're going to see studios really start to look at what box office success looks like. As far as post-strike, it's going to be very interesting. But at the end of the day, I do think these studios kind of need to earn our trust back. They need to actually be putting out things when they say they're going to put them out. They need to make it accessible to the consumer. You need to stop pulling shit off of your streaming services. And also, I hope we see streaming services shut down. Because I'm over AMC Plus, MGM. Like, we don't, not everything needs a goddamn streaming service. Like, we should have 4, like Disney Plus, Prime Video, HBO Max, and Netflix. That should really be the 4. Like, I shouldn't need fucking Peacock to watch, The Office or whatever. Like, just you know what I mean?
Sometimes,
I don't.
Peacock sometimes got some low key sleepers on there. Sometimes.
Oh no, they do, but you get what I'm saying. We should have 4 or 5 streamers, not 20.
Yeah.
So, but
yeah. Yeah, I see what you're saying there. I think that's also, it's just like you said, a lot of people just can wait for this to come out home, and it's like, why go spend money at theaters? You're just dealing with rude people and such.
But also, man, there's so much content. There's so much goddamn content. It's like, I mean, we've talked about off mic. Just as a fucking content creator, it's fucking exhausting. There's so much shit to watch, and it's like, why haven't you reviewed that? It's like, there's only 24 hours in a goddamn day. Like, I can only get to so much shit, So it's overwhelming in that sense. So, I would tell people, and fuck, Percy Jackson's about to come out in a couple weeks.
Yeah.
So which I'm really hyped for. I'm really excited for that. But yeah, I would tell people, watch what you can, embrace it, have fun with it, but it should never feel like a struggle to watch shit, because you are supposed to enjoy this shit at the end of the day, So watch what you can, and if you can't get to something, you can't get to something. But yes, theaters are gonna have to change some shit up. You got to make concessions easier. You got to space out showtime. Like, the industry is gonna have to change for us to make it more accessible to us. So. That's the give and take aspect of it.
And one last thing on this is that maybe it'll force Disney to be a little bit more creative and innovative, because I think that's the thing, especially with their animated stuff, which should be their bread and butter.
Their animated stuff, yeah, for sure.
And maybe it's coming to a point because they were at a point like this before, maybe not as bad as they were before Little Mermaid came out, because before Little Mermaid came out, they were almost on the brink of like a bankruptcy disaster there falling. Then Little Mermaid helped save them and uplift them, and that led into the renaissance of all like Beauty and the Beast and Little Mermaid, Lion King and Aladdin
Yeah.
and Mulan and so forth. So maybe you get something like that else coming from there. And I think I did see some tweets apparently from the animator of Wish saying that, we wanted to go further with this and do more stuff, but then we were kind of held back by it. So
And that VFX strike, that could be, because I know like the Marvel VFX people decide to unionize. So
yeah,
here's the thing: you're gonna see like the industry is changing, and I think from the striking aspect for the better. Like you're gonna see a lot of these people go like, we're getting paid, in Disney dollars to draw Ariel over and over again. Like maybe, I got a fucking house, I got a fucking car payment. I can't pay that shit in Disney dollars. Like you're seeing people start to recognize their worth. And if COVID and lockdowns taught us anything, it's that people are recognizing, that they're being underpaid and that they're being shafted. So I hope that it's a continued reckoning for the industry and that people are realizing like, nah, you need to be paying me more if I'm doing, this job. But from the animation side, and look, I've talked about my love for the MCU. I some things have fallen, like I don't love as much as others, but for the most part, I'm still digging what they're doing. From the animation side, I think DreamWorks has closed that gap tremendously, especially with the Puss in Boots movies, Netflix with Pinocchio. I think on the animation side, Disney has gotten pretty lazy. So I think that is, yeah. I was going to save that for last, but yeah, of course, across the. So I think that is going to be something that they're going to, because like you watch something like Moon Girl and Devil Dinosaur, which is fucking awesome, and you're like, okay, so you can do this, like. We know you can, but you're not. So why aren't you? So I do think that's going to be an ongoing conversation. But hopefully this is a kick in the ass for not just Disney, but for the industry to go ahead and actually try, And if you're going to charge us, what you're charging us for streaming and movie tickets, if y'all haven't watched Moon Girl and Devil Dinosaur, it is well worth your fucking time. Lawrence Fishburne is a producer on that. And they have some incredible needle drops, including Raphael Sadiq is the music supervisor on there. He fucking kills it. They dropped some Gambino in there. They dropped some Tribe Called Quest. Like, it's a great fucking show. And that's on Disney Plus. If you have not seen that, it is well worth your fucking time. But yeah, y'all, industry, Hollywood, what you got? Go ahead and actually, try. We're spending money with y'all, so give a shit. Give us good shit.
So that was Disney.